Among the steep hills of the Peruvian Andes and the Amazon basin sits one of the most admired sanctuaries in the world. This is Machu Picchu, the most famous symbol of the Inca civilization. It's extraordinary and beautiful, but authorities are worried its survival is at risk. The biggest threat is from humans, but also the environment. I'll be back with more on that, but first, let's take you 3,000 kilometers away from here to Honduras, to another World Heritage Site, with its own efforts to save it underway. My colleague Alessandro Rampietti is there.
Mariana, this is the Rio Platano Biosphere Reserve, the last remaining tropical forest north of the Amazon. Underneath this dense canopy, there are hundreds of archaeological sites, an incredible biodiversity, and indigenous and Afro-descendant communities that have lived off this forest for generations. But this wilderness is under growing pressure. Illegal cattle ranching, illegal logging, and even drug trafficking are slowly destroying one of the most important ecosystems in Central America. We'll show you what local communities are doing to try to protect it. But first, let's go back to Peru, where Mariana is about to join the crowds making the trip to Machu Picchu.
Thanks, Alessandro. This is the tiny town of Aguascalientes. Many people know it as Machu Picchu Pueblo. This is the last leg from a long trip from the city of Cusco, from where thousands of tourists come every day to see Machu Picchu. Just over 100 years ago, people around the world first learned of Machu Picchu, and since then it has brought millions of visitors to the sanctuary. Many are ecstatic about the experience, but many don't know they are putting Machu Picchu at risk. Archaeologists say it's the weight, the type of shoes, and the number of tourists putting Machu Picchu under pressure. UNESCO has warned this World Heritage Site is facing significant conservation risks. Archaeologists here are worried.
Mira, por ejemplo, un claro ejemplo.
Look, this is a clear example right here. The stone has essentially lost its sharp edge because of constant foot traffic, which has caused erosion and wear.
Emerson Pereira became an archaeologist to help save Machu Picchu.
What a day!
He says these wooden structures have been set up to protect the pathways. However, some of them need to be repaired at least twice a year.
Es una mezcla, ¿no? Todo este material hace una...
Workers prepare a dry mixture, spread it out, and begin tamping it down using tampers to compact the material.
When indigenous Peruvians discovered Machu Picchu, it was hidden under vegetation. About 500 people lived here. American explorer Hiram Bingham saw it in 1911, and his photographs sparked global fascination that continues till today. But now it's exposed to climate change. Experts say the soil and stones are suffering from erosion.
Estas se adhieren a la piedra.
This lichen adheres to the stone, and when it's removed, the surface layers come off, causing the stone to begin flaking and cracking.
The sanctuary spans 37,000 square kilometers. The flora and fauna face a range of threats, from melting glaciers to extreme rainfall. Landslides in the foothills are more frequent, affecting homes and businesses, including the railway, the main route to the citadel. Machu Picchu is the crown jewel of Peru. On January, a 4-year-long master plan was approved to protect the sanctuary that goes way beyond the mountains that surround it. The plan limits the number of visitors to no more than 5,600 a day. It also proposes measures to treat waste and limit the growth of Machu Picchu Pueblo. Machu Picchu National Archaeological Park Director César Medina says it is crucial to promote awareness.
UNESCO
recommends that we engage more with our people to foster an understanding that this is their heritage. We open Machu Picchu to the world with a sense of anxiety. Regrettably, we must impose limits to avoid damaging the heritage site. Indeed, climate change is a big issue for UNESCO World Heritage Sites. But in Honduras, also cattle ranching and drug trafficking are putting at risk the rainforest. Back to you, Alessandro.
Mariana, these ancient rock engravings are a reminder that people have lived in harmony with this forest for thousands of years. There are more than 200 archaeological sites scattered throughout this reserve, many of them still hidden under the jungle. But as the forest is increasingly cut down and burned, More of these sites are being exposed to looting and destruction. And all this is also affecting the extraordinary wildlife that lives here. We'll have more about the fight for the wildlife inside the reserve later in the show. But first, let me take you on a journey deep inside the biosphere to meet the communities that are fighting to preserve the forest and its history. Central America's largest remaining rainforest has survived because it's so difficult to reach. 6 hours over increasingly rough roads and another 4 by boat until finally the rainforest takes over. Our destination is the indigenous community of Las Marias, a remote settlement in the Mosquitia region of Honduras. As we head upriver, large sections of the forest have been cleared. Pech indigenous leader Martin Herrera says illegal cattle ranching by outsiders is to blame.
We used to farm small plots and let the forest regenerate, but cattle ranching clears everything. Chemicals used on the pastures are contaminating the river.
More than 2,000 indigenous people live inside the reserve. They hold collective rights over approximately half the land and depend on the rainforest for their survival. UNESCO designated Rio Platano Central America's first World Heritage Site more than 40 years ago, but for the past decade it has remained on the list of World Heritage Sites in danger. The only way to reach many communities inside the reserve is by river. The same isolation that has helped preserve the forest for many years has also made it incredibly difficult to protect. Authorities here have little permanent presence, which is opening up vulnerable spaces to illegal activities. Illegal deforestation isn't the only threat. Unlawful gold mining and drug trafficking are also damaging the reserve. Since 2010, more than 5,000 square kilometers of forest, or around 1/5 of Mosquitia's forest cover, have disappeared, putting countless species at risk. The government says it has deployed 2 environmental battalions, destroyed illegal airstrips used by drug traffickers, and removed settles from protected land. But protecting an area this vast remains a challenge.
Today we have much greater mobility and logistical support. There's also much stronger cooperation with the authorities. Even so, we still need more resources, given the scale of the challenge we're facing.
Residents of Las Marias says those protecting the reserve are increasingly becoming targets. One community leader was killed just weeks ago. Others say they've received repeated death threats from armed groups operating openly in the area.
These people are violent and carry weapons. Many of my colleagues have already been killed. But if they want to kill me, they'll have to kill me. I'm just defending my community.
Every year, more forest disappears, and with it, the hopes of the communities fighting to save the rainforest they have protected for generations.
For years, UNESCO blacklisted Machu Picchu because of the contamination. Nearly 1.8 million tourists arrive here every year, and as a result, they leave tons of waste behind. The plastic bottles must be packed to be taken all the way back to Cusco by train. And the Vilcanota River is the dumping site of human and toxic waste. There are no sewage treatment facilities here. They are forbidden to protect the thousands of species in this sanctuary. Earlier, I spoke with Denise Posiescot, a museum director and champion of policies to protect World Heritage Sites. Thank you for being with us. Authorities protecting Machu Picchu say that UNESCO's presence forces them to improve the measures to protect the sanctuary. Now, a master plan has been approved and it includes restrictions in the number of visitors, waste treatment, and restraining the growth of Machu Picchu Pueblo. What are the challenges ahead?
UNESCO requires these heritage sites to have a management plan to serve as a guideline. They encompass the landscape and the local community, regulating the functioning and organization of the entire setting, which is crucial for ensuring the site does not lose its authenticity. For instance, the area known today as Machu Picchu Pueblo sits on a ravine. This poses a danger due to climate change, rainfall, and glacial melt, which can trigger landslides. UNESCO requires us, the state's parties, to comply with these measures in order to protect the entire environment and safeguard visitors as well.
Will UNESCO provide some emergency funding, monitoring, technical support? How significant are these contributions, and are they sufficient to meet today's challenges?
No creo que puedan ser suficientes.
No, they are not sufficient, given the sheer number of heritage sites affected. Glaciers are melting, and the water from them is reaching more areas. Winds and rains are impacting earthen structures. Consequently, climate change brings with it a whole range of conservation issues that we need to start addressing from a global perspective.
Looking ahead, what are the greatest challenges facing Latin American countries in preserving World Heritage sites such as Machu Picchu or the Rio Platano Biosphere Reserve? What is the role governments, local communities, and the international organizations play in addressing them?
Cada uno tiene algo que aportar.
Everyone has something to contribute. The local community understands the materials used in the site's construction. We, the archaeologists and researchers, can uncover the site's history and how those materials were utilized. UNESCO provides preservation guidelines, and the international community contributes the financial resources and expertise needed to assist us. It is essential that we all work hand in hand if these heritage sites are to be preserved.
That was Denise Posiescot. The Machu Picchu Pueblo is also part of the sanctuary, and many question if one day it will be free of risks. Those questions also for the Rio Platano Biosphere in Honduras. Back to you, Alessandro.
There is yet another side to the Rio Platano stories. The thousands of animals that live through this reserve, from jaguars that roam free throughout the reserve to 4 types of endangered turtles in its waters. There is also the critically endangered spider monkey, and this is one of the few places remaining in Central or South America where you can encounter the great green macaws, and this is just to name a few. There are also more than 2,000 vascular plants living at different altitudes and some 600 types of flora in the lowlands, all of them at risk. From the mountains of Peru to the jungle of Honduras, these World Heritage Sites tell the story of Latin America's natural and cultural wealth. Yet despite the differences, they face the same challenge: how to preserve them in a world where human activity is imposing growing pressure on some of the world's most irreplaceable sites. Thanks for joining us on this journey and on the efforts to save 2 of Latin America's greatest treasures. And now we hand it over back to our headquarters in Doha.